So,
yeah, should we start or should we wait a few minutes more? Maybe some colleagues will be there in 2 or 3 minutes. What do you think? Let's wait a minute or two.
Ja ne znam, tam sam negde pauzam.
Yeah, so dear colleagues, dear friends of ICARUS, it's a pleasure to welcome you for our next online event. And it's now some kind of closing the cycle, our portals presentations. Namely, last year we started to present online our 3 portals or platforms, if you like, which are, let's say, the most important standing projects of the ICARUS community, namely Monasterium, Topotek, and Matricula. Last year, firstly, it was presented Topotek, then a few months ago, Monasterium, and now, last but not least, the portal Matricula. The presentation will be held by our former president. Sounds very strange. Some would say once president, always president, but we are very happy to have him on board also in the future, and as General Secretary, and very active, as we see already now by this presentation. It's of course Dr. Thomas Aigner, the General Secretary of ICARUS now, and the Director of the Cézanne Archive in St. Pölten. So Thomas, please, we will be delighted to hear your presentation of Matricula. So the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Jaco. So for me, it doesn't sound strange. It sounds very familiar and very comfortable in the meanwhile. And I'm very happy that all 3 new presidents of ICARUS are with us today. So Birgit, our new president, be warmly welcome. And Vladka is also here, I've seen. So the other vice president and Sharko. So you see that the leading crew of ICARUS is here today. So I'm very glad that you took over and that I'm sure you will do an excellent job. On the other hand, I'm happy staying part of the team, on the one hand as the Administrative Secretary General, but also as the responsible person for the Matricula portal. And so it's a great pleasure for me today to walk a little bit with you through the Matricula portal. I think most of you know it already, so I will focus on some stories, how Matricula was founded and what were the reasons, and how was the evolution of the portal during the years, and what's the current state of affairs. So, what was the basic idea? The basic idea of the Matricula portal was born in the St. Pölten Diocese archives, simply out of the necessity to get rid of the users in the reading room. So that was not some kind of hostile action against somebody. It was absolutely a necessity, because our reading room was crowded with people every day, and we had a lot of work with them. We had to carry hundreds of books every day from the repository and back. And on the other hand, for the user, it was quite uncomfortable to make such a long travel from all around Austria to St. Pölten, because, you know, your ancestors, they could be anywhere. And so we had a situation that was not really satisfying for both sides, neither for the archives nor for the users. And so we changed our strategy from microfilming. So until 1998, we filmed almost half of our register books in St. Pölten. And then when the digitization became more and more up to date, we stopped the microfilming, and in 2004 we started a project of the comprehensive digitization of the register books in our diocese in St. Pölten. And I have to admit, I'm somebody who fails during his life. And one of my major failures was when we started the digitization. I said, okay, we digitize the register books, but never, ever we set them online. And so we started the digitization, and after 2 or 3 years, we prepared a digital reading room with computers and screens in our reading room. And then all the people sat still in our reading room, looking at the screens and doing their research there. And the internet had evolved very much until that time. And so the weirdness of the situation became more and more obvious, because the weirdness that we have everything digital, but the people still need to come to St. Pölten. On the other hand, more and more the awareness became familiar that we simply would need to push the button and the entire reading room would be empty, and we would be free for much other work. And so we thought to ourselves, okay, no risk, no fun. Despite the doubts of many colleagues, especially in the ecclesiastical archives area, we said, okay, we create a portal for the St. Pölten registers primarily, and we try it. And you know, we have a very deep friendship with the Passau diocesan archives and also with the Upper Austrian state archives. And so we said, we offered them, hey, let's join forces. Would you like to be part of that new portal? And both archives fully agreed. And so in 2009, we set the portal online. But it was not for a very long time online, because we used the server infrastructure of our diocese to host the images. And you can imagine the data traffic of images is quite high, and within hours the lines into the diocese broke down. Not even the bishop could send any emails anymore because everything was blocked. And so the first attempt to set our register books online failed a little bit. But of course, we looked for a solution, and the solution simply was to buy a server and to let it house by a company in Vienna. And so we bought the server for the images, and the company in Vienna took care of it. And a few weeks later, we went online again with a stable connection to the image server. At that time, we used a very convenient system by the company of Augeas in Germany, a ready prepared online system for providing registers of records, archival records of any kind in the internet. And during the years, the interest to set registers online became bigger and bigger, especially in the area or in the field of church archives. Maybe also because of the fact that the doubts many had, or also the fears many had of possible misuse of data or something like that, did not really come true. So now we have everything online for about 15 years, and we never ever had some kind of problem with data abuse or misuse or whatever. And so since that time, the growth of the portal became more and more dynamic through the times. And this also required us to do a new development of the portal in order to make it a little bit more fancy and a little bit more attractive for the users, and for us a little bit more flexible in terms of the presentation and also the ingest of data. And so we created the portal as it is today. So I've now shared my screen. I hope you all can see the screen. The development of the new website was carried out by the Hungarian company ICARUS, with which we are connected very closely and with which we've had an excellent cooperation so far. Here on the landing page, you can choose between three kinds of searches. The one is you can simply browse through the countries. So here you see just a moment, I make it English. So here you see an overview, what fonts or what parishes are already contained in the portal. So at the beginning there was only St. Pölten with 400 parishes. Now there are more than 8,000 parishes in the portal. Here you see the map, here you see the coverage. So the coverage at the moment focuses on Austria, Germany, Luxembourg, Slovenia, and there are a few parishes also in Bosnia, Hungary, and also in Poland. So that's not so much there. But you see, during the last 15 years, it became more, almost 20 times so much. And we still get requests especially by Roman Catholic dioceses to set their register books here online, especially from Germany. And you see here also in the numbers that Germany, in the meanwhile, is the leading country in Matricula, because here you have the countries, and you see in Germany there are currently online 3,649 parishes. In Austria there are 2,740. And there you see the other focal points. It's Luxembourg with 277, so it's the entire Luxembourg, and Slovenia with 578. So it's quite a lot, and I think it's a huge achievement, because our basic philosophy is also that Matricula is not aimed to be a portal for commercial purposes. It's an open portal. There is no registration, there are no fees. You can access here all register books absolutely for free. It can be also seen like that what we get back as an archives is not money, but what we get back is simply its time. It's time, and we save costs for the conservation and restoration of books. And that's much more than fees ever could bring. So let's have a look at our primary countries. Let's have a look to Germany. You see the list of dioceses, especially Roman Catholic dioceses in Germany, is quite long already, and we are in negotiation with many others. So I'm really confident that within the next years we will have a huge coverage, especially in the Roman Catholic area. So you see Aachen, Augsburg with 904, Hildesheim, you have Osnabrück, so you have really famous and prominent dioceses there. Let's have a look to Austria, for instance. You see almost entire Austria is covered, only two federal provinces, the Burgenland and Tyrol, they they are not very well represented there. But I think it's also simply a matter of time. Yeah, and if you have a look here into one of the dioceses, I may use my diocese, it's the St. Pölten diocese. For those who are not so familiar with Austria, here you can see where it is situated. Here you have Austria, here you have Vienna, and so it's in the west, in the western part, west to Vienna, there is the St. Pölten diocese. It's half of the province of Lower Austria with 400 parishes. Yeah, and here you can also see how we financed the digitization. We used simply our own money, of course, but we were supported very well also by the government of Lower Austria. And we used also the structural funds of the European Union, the Interreg program. So we used the Interreg program with Slovakia and Czechia, and we had cooperation projects with the colleagues from these other countries, and we could finance really quite a lot through those funds. Yeah, and you see, it's very simple. Yeah, you have the list of parishes, and then you take some parish. So let's take this parish, and I think what is quite nice is you have here in the upper part, you have the name of the parish, and highly important is the current area of the parish and also the historical area of the parishes, because in many cases people were born in small villages that were not parishes of their own. And if you do your research, in many cases you just get to know the small village but not the parish. And so having that data here inside, you can find any parish where the small village your ancestors lived belonged to. And you see, it's quite simple. Here you have the list of books, the register type, the date, the identifier. And if you click here on the photo machine, you can access the book. So honestly said, in times of HDR and artificial intelligence, a portal like Matricula is quite stone aged. It's quite old fashioned, because what we do is simply translate the analog situation into digital. So we simply provide the same as we did in the reading room. We simply provide images of the books. So this means we do not provide a database of places and names and dates and so on. I think this is something that the community can do, and this is something that can be done by technology in the future. And we as a church archives in St. Pölten, we see our mission accomplished. So our mission is to provide a free access to the images, to the sources. Whatever the community and the research now does or will do is up to them. So this means here you get to see images. This means if you do your research, you always need to know in which archive do I have to look for, and also in which parish, and also you need to know which book and which date, which range of time. So it's like in the analog archives, but nevertheless it saves a lot of time and money for the users and for us. So mission absolutely accomplished. And what's really nice here in the portal is that you have here also with each parish you have an image of the church, so you get an impression. What is this place about? How does it look like? Beneath you have the map, so you see where is this parish situated. I think that's also important, especially for those who are from who are from far away and are not familiar with the local circumstances or the local things there. And what I absolutely like is that there is also beneath a link to the Arcanum portal providing the Franciscan cadastral maps. So this means here you also can see how the village of your ancestors looked like in the 19th century. And if you do deeper research also on patrimonial records, maybe you can also find the exact place of the house of your ancestors. Yeah, and here we have the parish of Geras. It's a Premonstratensian monastery, and here you see it's a simple viewer where you can browse through the books and look and see what's in there. So this is how it works. So on the other hand, I said here you can browse through the phone. On the other hand, here you can also see, you can have a look on the map what you're looking for. So this means if you think, okay, I have my ancestors somewhere here in the neighborhood of, let's say, Wiener Neustadt, yeah. So because in many cases you get to a point where you do not have a place how to continue with your family tree, because you do not have a place where the parents of your parents were born. But until the middle of the 19th century, the possibility or the probability that your relatives were quite from one of the neighboring villages is quite high. And so here you can see the neighboring parishes. So if you stop in Wiener Neustadt and you don't get further, so you see, there is a parish in Katzelsdorf or there is a parish in Lichtenwörth. So you can go there into the virtual parish office and look in those parish records and so on. So I think it's quite convenient. Yeah, and the third kind of what I mentioned is the search for places. As I mentioned, here you can find the belonging of villages to parishes. So if I put here some village, it's called, let's take Nöstach. Yeah, Nöstach is not a parish of its own. And now we look for Nöstach, and there you see Nöstach is contained in two parishes. It's in Klein Mariazell until 1782, and after 1782 it's in the parish of Hafnerberg. So this means with that kind of search you immediately find where the village of your ancestors belonged to. Yeah. You see here on the right that every few days there are new parishes online. There are corrections done in the available stocks, and I think that's also really an important aspect of the free access to the registers, because with the free access to the registers, the users are your partners, and so we have a partnership with our users. Users are not customers, they are partners. And so together we further develop the portal by identifying errors and mistakes in the data, and we correct it with them together. And so more and more the data gets more perfect and perfect, because you can understand if we are dealing here with about 50 million images and with about, let's say, 100,000 sets of data for of register books, so nothing can be perfect there. So there are a lot of errors in there, and so we correct it together. And that brings me to my last point. Maybe you know also our Friends Association, and we see Matricula as something, as I said, as a joint effort between ICARUS and the users, and the users who want to support the further development of Matricula or who want to be part of the ICARUS adventure have the possibility to best support us by becoming a member of ICARUS for All. And it does not cost so much, it's about 35 euros per year, but with that money, that is a good investment because it ensures that ICARUS keeps going and also the Matricula portal keeps going. And so I would like to conclude with a warm invitation to become part of our community that way. Thank you very much.
Dear Thomas, thank you very much for very nice, short but comprehensive and clear presentation of this wonderful portal and wonderful project. Many of us, I'm sure, who are involved in ICARUS affairs since years did not know everything about this and how simple and useful it is. But I'm sure that we will have also one or another question. So please, dear colleagues, if you are interested in something further about Matricula, now it's the chance for you if you have questions. So please.
Yes,
Birgit.
I'm Birgit. Yeah.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Thomas, for the presentation. It was great to have this kind of overview, which I'm afraid I haven't had, or at least not during the last 2 years or so, even if I know the background a little bit. But well, my question is that is there some reason, perhaps basing on the fact that many countries perhaps have sort of similar databases or portals. I mean, the countries which haven't joined Matricula so far. I don't know, perhaps, for instance, Poland, which is a huge country with many sources, or are there any other specifications why there are mostly Germany, Austria, and some other countries joined, and some places that haven't done it yet?
Yeah, I guess there are two reasons for that. The one is that we do not have a proactive acquisition policy. So we do not proactively approach archives in order to get them in. We simply run the platform, and who's interested can get in. And yeah, so maybe we haven't approached colleagues in many other countries so far. But there is also another reason that, especially in terms of Catholic register books in various countries, the attitude is still very conservative, and I think especially in Poland they are not really keen on setting their registers online so far as I know, and it's similar also in the more southern countries of Europe. So I think there are those two reasons, but let me stress, any archive that wants to cooperate with us and set its registers online is warmly welcome.
Yeah, it is perfect platform, and it opens so many directions to do the research. And I do hope that really those countries who are still more conservative will think about the value of the site to have the sources and digital way to keep them open for everybody. And as you mentioned, it really can help you save the money, just the traveling and all the other issues that you can do much more easier when they are like digital way available. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Birgit. Other questions, further questions, remarks, or comments? I would have a question concerning what you mentioned, Thomas, that conservative attitude. So we are facing it also regarding other types of archival sources in this part of Europe, let's say. And you mentioned also during your presentation that there were fears or arguments against posting data online. Could you please tell something more about it? Which kind of arguments the opponents put on the table? What did they mean with misuse of data and such things?
Yeah, those arguments are on at different levels. So on the general level, I think it's in general in the digital era. We archivists of the analog era, we were used to have control over everything. So the users get into the archive. They need to fill some form. They need to fill an order, and maybe they are also controlled by cameras or whatever. So everything is protected and under control in the analog reading room. And letting the registers free without registration, without control, and so it's a big step. It's a big mental step, but you don't need to control digital data if it's freely available and it's open. So I think that's a psychological issue. It was a psychological issue. On the other hand, we are dealing here with data of concrete persons. And despite the fact that, of course, no data is displayed that is under any restriction of data protection or other laws, there were fears that maybe the data of ancestors could be misused in order to disadvantage living persons. In theory, that might happen, of course, because you can find the parents of your neighbor, and maybe they had some sickness or something like that, and you can then tell them, yeah. But in reality, we have not really faced problems in this way. So this was also an argument against it. And another argument that was the monetary argument, because many archives, especially in Germany, they require fees, user fees from the people visiting their archives, and getting rid of those users in the reading room means a loss of income for the archives. But on the other hand, of course, it's a loss of income, but on the other hand, it's a big gain of time. And if you calculate that time into money, it's a much bigger income than the income from the user fees. So I think those were the major arguments against it.
Thank you. Thank you, Thomas. Any other questions?
Jarko, may I?
Yes, of course, Carl. I didn't notice that you're here. That's very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, just one short remark. I want to add that due to the title, the name of the platform Matricula, in spite of the fact that it's exclusively consists of church register books by now, it's basically open for any kind of matricula of register books, so also secular, so universities or conscriptions and kind that fit from the structure of the metadata into this pattern of church books. So it's not exclusively per se planned as a reserved only for church registered books. This I only wanted to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl.
Yes, thank you. Maybe there is question indeed. If not, and if you don't have to add anything, Thomas,
No?
I would like to thank you all for attending this online event, and to tell you that we are almost at the end of the season, let's say, so maybe there will be one more online lecture until summer, but at the moment we don't have to announce anything concrete. That will be maybe some in connection with our current projects, but if so, we will give an announcement in due time. And so thank you once more, and I wish you a nice day and see you by next occasion. Thank you very much.
I think the most important thing is that we don't see each other here in the internet once more, but at our big anniversary party in Austria on the 24th of June. See you then and have a beer.
Yes.